Hi everyone, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and today I'm going to be giving you my full opinion of Wargaming's brand new PvE game mode, Homefront, which basically involves defending against waves and waves of progressively more aggressive and bigger bots. It's kind of the equivalent of a tower defense game inside World of Tanks. Now I know I might be a little bit late to the party here, as this game mode did come out 3 days ago and a lot of you have probably been playing it, but I wanted to give myself time to be able to fully appreciate whether I think that this is a game mode that has lasting appeal and whether Wargaming have incorporated it into the game in a way that I feel is both good for them and also fair for the community. And considering how long players have been asking for a PvE game mode inside World of Tanks, yeah, there's a lot of pressure on Wargaming with this one. Anyway, without further ado, let's get stuck straight in. So firstly, I want to show you guys the gameplay of Homefront to give you an idea of what it all plays out like before I discuss the meta of what is happening inside the game and how much you're going to have to play to be able to get the rewards. So as you load in, you have a choice of 3 different vehicles at your disposal, but if you're playing one of the British factions like I'm playing, it's really a choice between 2 Covenanters and a Crusader. Now there are 3 different tiers of each of the factions, and each of the... getting TK'd by my own team, but luckily there isn't team damage inside this. So there are 3 different tiers on each of the factions. You start with the smaller tanks, like the Valentines, the Crusaders, the Covenanters, as you see me playing now, and then you grow into things like Churchills and Shermans, and even you can get a Hellcat when you reach the top of one of the American lines. Now these are the bots that you can see that are progressing towards us, and they're pretty sneaky actually. The bots can surprise you with a lot of damage. They fire on the move, and as there is quite a lot of RNG inside this game, sometimes the bots will hit you on the move. Seems quite miraculous, but whether that happens or not too often, I think you're going to have to play a few games for yourself. But more or less, it's a battle for damage. You've got to try and take out all of the bots, but also you're competing with your own team for damage, but more on that later. So progressively, as you grow up, you get bigger and bigger tanks. What you're seeing here is everybody's playing tier 1 vehicles. Now, you might be thinking, well, what are those markers over the enemy vehicles' heads, or shall I say their icons, these crosses? So what these crosses are those are how much damage the vehicles will do to your shield. And you can see the shield will be this line over on the east of the minimap. If the enemies get inside this, it starts to warn you. And if they manage to progress through this and they manage to get towards the east of the map, that's going to allow the enemy team to start destroying some of your defensive shields. And as you can see, we have 10 of them. Now that's not such a big deal towards the lower end of the gameplay. 10 shields, there's only 4 waves at tier 1. But when you start to play tier 2, and once you play tier 3, or shall I say the second and the third levels of difficulty inside the game, then yeah, those 10 shields can go quite quickly. And in fact, that enemy that I just spotted but we failed to take out is going to start to demolish one of our defensive shields. And so what your goal is to make sure that all of your defensive shields do not go down. Now, the other way that you can lose is that some of the enemies are boss enemies, if you want to call them that, and they have a skull above their head. We might be seeing a couple of those later on. Now, if one of those tanks manages to get inside your cap circle, it doesn't matter how many defensive shields you have, the game is over instantly. And so you need to do everything that you can to make sure that you take out the enemies with skulls, the boss enemies, above their heads. Alright, so I'm telling my friends that this bot is taking a very sweet time to actually make his way through our defensive shield, but we're all ignoring him. We're just going to let him go through. The Panzer 38T is going to be one of the tanks that slips through our lines, and there you can hear the warning alarm as one of our defense shields breaks down. But luckily you don't fail unless you break down all of those defensive shields, and so we survived 1 wave of the attack, and there are 3 more for us to deal with. So what is going to be coming next? Well, luckily it does actually tell you what the wave is going to be. And there we go. As you can see in the top right hand corner of your screen, our first boss enemy, a big skull on that tiger. Now, this all looks very boring, right? There are some things that are pretty cool inside this game mode. The eagle-eyed of you might have already noticed that we do have a Minefield Consumable, and this is me activating the Minefield Consumable. You can see that I've just placed all of the mines in front of me. So this Panzer 3K has got more hit points than I have. They're higher level than us. But look at that! All the mines go off and completely demolish the enemy bot. And I have to admit, that is one of the coolest things that Wargaming have managed to incorporate inside this PvE game mode. I absolutely love the consumables that you use. They do feel as if they're fairly balanced, balanced enough to be able to allow you to take on whole onslaughts of enemy tanks. And I've had situations where I've managed to take out 2-3 tanks with a single bombing run. And that's because all of the different factions inside the PvE game mode do have different abilities. Some are kind of strafe planes that damage modules and stun. Some are artillery strikes that do a huge amount of damage towards the center of a circle, but are quite hard to land. And others, for example, on this are mines, and even some of the ones down the eastern front, the Soviet tanks, have kind of a last stand, where when you actually destroy them, they don't die for another 15 seconds or so, and their rate of fire is substantially increased. In fact, the KV-1, when that happened to me, had more of a kind of like an autoloader. So between some of the waves, I think it's every 2 waves, planes come and try and destroy you. And that's to stop you from napping in between the waves and to maybe to force you out of your position, create a bit of confusion. Really, all you have to do is make sure you're driving, and if you're driving, then you should be okay. Oh gosh, look, Panzer II right ahead of me there. Already managed to hit me, but only for a tiny little bit of damage. And one thing that's quite interesting is even though there's a UI bug, you might see towards the top left-hand corner of your screen that yes, the bots do fire premium rounds at you occasionally, which is pretty rough. Alright, so I've got another minefield here, and you can kind of use them on the Crusader as a bit of a combat minefield. And check this out, we're going to drive straight towards these Marder 38Ts, and we're going to try and line up our minefield on them, and boom! We just dodged the mine there ourselves, but we managed to shut down 2 German tank destroyers with a single minefield. So yeah, I have to admit that the kind of kamikaze minefields do feel quite fun. But I think I've enjoyed the minefields quite a lot because obviously you can stop the enemies from just rolling over the slopes towards you and finishing you off. But the other things like the artillery strikes in the game are also pretty kick-ass. So I'm going to skip one of the waves now and we're going to go to the final wave. And as you can see, there's 4 Panther boss tanks on the enemy team. They got 1,200 hit points, which is 3 times the hit points of my vehicle. So this is rather alarming, and as we can see, they have put a good old hit in on me already, and I can only take 2 more hits, otherwise I will be going down. Now, one thing that's very interesting about this game mode is, as I said earlier, you're kind of competing with your allies for damage, but more on that later on. And let me tell you that spotting doesn't matter at all. And so look at this situation. Every single one of these Panthers is facing me. None of them are facing towards my friends, I guess apart from that one, which we're going to be able to focus down now, well, hopefully, as we do 5 premium rounds, but luckily the premium rounds are free inside this game mode, you just have to manage to collect them. So all of our allies are just farming these Panthers with reckless abandon. Whereas they're all aiming at me, so it's quite hard for me to reliably get damaging shells off into these Panthers. I'm not getting the free farm like my allies are. And so that means that kind of a situation, while it definitely helped my team to be able to win, it doesn't help me to do more damage to then finish towards the top. And that's because the player who gets the most damage done in the game in a winning round gets 10 points, while 2nd, 3rd and 4th get 8, and the person who finishes bottom in 5th place will only get 6. While inside a losing game, the 1st place is going to get 6, 2nd, 3rd and 4th get 5, and the loser, so to say, gets 4th. And so immediately, I don't really like this system. This is a PvE game mode. Why are you having to compete against sometimes your friends that you're signing up in platoons with? And spotting for your allies is completely useless for dealing damage, and in the end, while it is going to allow you to win, it's going to slow down your progression because you're more likely to finish 2nd, 3rd, 4th, or even 5th instead of 1st. So let me now talk about the progression system, and that is that there are 3 factions on the Eastern Front and also on the Western Front. And as I mentioned during the gameplay, you have to progress the levels from 1 to 2 to 3 if you want to achieve the ultimate reward inside the game mode. So how long does it take to advance up these ranks? Well, you have to get 35 points to reach rank 2, and you have to get 90 points in each one of the divisions to be able to reach tier 3. And if you want to get the ultimate reward on both of the fronts, then yes, you're going to have to get 90 points on each of the 6 divisions. So how many points do you get for playing? Well, as you saw, if you lose, you're going to get about 5 points. But if you win, then you're going to be getting 8 unless you finish bottom, where you'll get 6. But if you finish first on damage, you're going to get 10. So in a perfect world where you're signing up with your friends and you're winning pretty much every single game that you play, it's going to take about 12 games of Homefront to advance each one of the divisions up to level 3. So 12 games times by 6 divisions, we're talking about 72 games of Homefront here. And considering that level 1 games of Homefront take roughly about 10 minutes, while level 2 games of Homefront take 15 minutes, and you're going to have to play the majority of your games at tier 2, then I'd say this is going to be 72 games times by about 13 minutes on average. 936 minutes, which is going to be about 15 hours of gameplay if you want to get all of the divisions to level 3. But it's not enough to get all of the divisions to level 3, you also need to get 2,000 points, which is a separate currency inside this game mode, which as we can clearly see here, you're only going to be getting 73 when you're playing level 3 games, about 50 when you're playing level 2 games, and 25 when you're playing level 1 games. And so what this means is that if you play your 72 games of Frontline, I'm estimating that you're going to get about 2,975 points out of the 4,000, which means that of course to get to that 4,000 mark, you're going to have to get an additional 1,025 points, and it's probably going to be about another 13 games on top of that. And so I'm estimating that if you want to get the final rewards on both of the fronts, that you're going to have to put in about 85 games of Homefront over the 12-day period that the event runs. And remember, to play those extra 13 to 14 games at level 3, the games are much longer there. I think they're going to take at least 20 minutes on average, and you better have a good crew of level 3 tanks to be able to achieve them, otherwise you're not going to be doing so. Which adds an extra 4.5 hours onto the time required, and so lo and behold, this is 20 hours of gameplay over a 12-day period to be able to complete both of the fronts. Now for some people, that wouldn't be such a big deal if you could play Homefront as much as you possibly could want to do so. But lo and behold, that's where Wargaming have put in a gated progression system into Homefront, and that is in the form of fuel. Now, 2 cans of fuel are given to you every 24 hours. In addition to this, if you go and do some paltry mission inside the random queue by simply playing 2 games and getting 300 base experience points in each, you can get an additional 2 fuel per day. But remember, you're going to have to actually play every single day to be able to get that additional fuel. So what this means that over the 12 days, if you play the random queue and log in every single day to be able to get your fuel, then you're going to get 48 cans of fuel for free, which will allow you to be able to play the Homefront game mode. Now immediately some of you might be thinking, okay, I have to play 85 games on average even if I win to be able to achieve the goals, and I only have 48 cans of fuel, how can I get more? Well luckily, each time you level up inside the Homefront game mode to level 2, you get 2 additional cans of fuel, and to level 3, you get 4 additional cans of fuel. And so that means you can get 12 cans for leveling up to level 2, and you can also get yourself 24 cans for leveling up to level 3. And so what that means that the total fuel that you could possibly get, and remember this is if you've been playing Homefront every single day since it was released on Thursday, is 84 cans of fuel. Right on how much is actually going to be required. You know what? It's almost as if Wargaming have actually calculated how can we make it even remotely possible for even a player who's winning every single one of their games to be able to get both of the rewards, right? And so lo and behold, this is of course where the dirty pay-to-win element of this, what's meant to be, I guess, a PvE fun event comes into play, and that is that you can just purchase level 2 and you can purchase level 3 for 350 gold per division, or 1,500 gold for level 3 per division. We're talking about 9,000 gold here if you want to just skip all of the grinding and purchase level 3 right from the get-go. Now if you do this, then of course you're going to be earning more of the points towards the total 4,000 that you have to achieve, and you'll be able to invest your fuel at level 3 where you're going to be able to get more of the points available. And so for your total 84 fuel, even if you play pretty poorly, you're still going to be getting more than enough points to be able to unlock both of the rewards. So now let's talk about all of the rewards you can get from both of the fronts. If you manage to progress through the Western Front, you'll get yourself 2 camouflages for British tanks, 1 unique camouflage for an American tank, some directives that not really anyone cares about. However, if you reach level 3, you're going to get yourself 3 pieces of equipment that's worth about 600,000, 750,000 credits. And then if you get all of the bonuses, then you're going to be able to get yourself an enhanced gun rammer. This is a bond gun rammer. Now, for all of you who don't know what this is exactly, I have very few pieces of this because I've been trying to save my bonds in case Wargaming sell premium tanks for them, as they said they were going to at the start of this year. I have very few vehicles that are actually using bond equipment. For example, the Object 140 is one of them. And as you can see here, my gun rammer on this tank improves my loading time by 12.5% instead of 10%. Now, this is nothing new in the game. We've had this whole discussion, and hopefully you all know that my opinion is that there should be no place to have this bond equipment inside the game, especially when you give bonds to players who are participating in clan wars or participating in the ranked game mode. What these bonds effectively do, and the bond equipment especially, is make the best players better. It gives the best players an advantage against all of the players who just play this game for fun. Why do the best players need an advantage against the casual players inside the random queue? It completely baffles me. It's unfair, and more importantly, why Wargaming have introduced this is to have new ways to force you to play, to feel like you have to keep up with being competitive inside the game. And so I guess they've got exactly what they wanted to achieve from this Bond equipment, but they've used it as a reward for possibly the easiest kind of gameplay, i.e. playing against bots. They're giving the best equipment for just people who are willing to sit there for a mind-numbing amount of time. We're talking about nearly 20 hours here over the 12 days playing against bots, playing a game mode that doesn't change. It's the same tanks over and over and over again. And I can tell you, ladies and gents, after playing this game mode for the first couple of times, I was like, wow, this is really fun. Yeah, this is really cool. I'm getting to use my airstrikes. I can use my mines. Oh, I could be able to use bigger tanks next time. And then you realize, oh, it's the same thing. The tanks don't really get any harder. It's the same thing again. There's no randomness in the tank selection that's going to be coming at me. It is so boring. I was trying to stream this because I thought, I'm going to do this on my free-to-play account. I want to get those Bond equipment on my free-to-play account. It's going to be so much fun. I'll be able to actually put them on side one of my premium tanks. That'd be really awesome, right? To have a premium tank on my free-to-play account that I got from doing Wargaming's mission marathons, and I can fully pimp it out, and it's going to be my credit maker on my free-to-play account, right? And the second time I came to play it, I honestly felt like it was the most boring thing I have done inside video gaming history. And that's where I realized that I literally felt like a rat being forced down a maze to be able to achieve something that's going to make one of my tanks 2.5% better. This is not Homefront, boys and girls. This is homework. It always amazes me when Wargaming take game modes that just have so many fun elements to them and then completely ruin them by putting gated progression into them, having pay-to-win aspects of them because they know they want to make them an absolutely living hell for you to be able to complete, and to be honest, almost impossible for you to be able to complete both fronts without actually paying money into it, to be able to achieve things that frankly shouldn't be in the game anyway. But that's not the only thing that's completely screwed up about the fact that you can pay to accelerate your progress inside this game mode. And that's because a lot of people bought these bundles right from the get-go. And when you buy one of these bundles and then you load in with your level 3 Spearhead Brigade, for example, the matchmaker doesn't always match you up with level 3 players. As we can clearly see here, a player bought the level 3 upgrade on day 1 that Homefront was released, and yeah, me, M4, and then 2 other players were forced into their game. And the outcome of this is that even though I tried to put up a valiant effort, and I think I did something like 8,000 damage in a very small tank, we inevitably got defeated, and we got ourselves so little progression compared to if we had won towards getting our divisions to level 2 or level 3. And so that means, because this gentleman paid Wargaming 1,500 gold, what's that, about 10 euros? Because Wargaming took 10 euros from this guy, it made it almost impossible for 4 other players to be able to progress at a decent speed, to be able to achieve your division points and have any kind of a chance of being able to actually get towards the bonded equipment. I mean, how stupid can Wargaming have been to not have a failsafe system so that level 3 tanks can't play with all level 1 tanks? Make them wait. If they want to go and pay 1,500 gold to accelerate a division up, then make them wait for other people who have paid 1,500 gold. Or at the very least, get rid of this garbage system where you get less division points for losing than winning. Like, I'm not suggesting that this game mode needs to have no competitive nature in it at all, but the fact that this system means that other players can completely screw your opportunity to progress through this event and progress your division levels up is just absolutely laughable. Now, this wouldn't matter if it was only time that you lost, right, ladies and gents? But it's not time that you only lose, it's your fuel. And while I'm a community contributor and Wargaming gave my account lots of fuel so I could showcase the game mode for you, it's not going to be like that for everyone. And as I've calculated, even if you play every single day and do the missions every single day and get as much fuel as you possibly can, you've only got 84 games to be able to play inside the Homefront game mode. And while I think you'd have to be a little bit crazy to want to play Homefront 84 times over the 12-day period, because as I said, it's the most boring thing I've ever had to play in video gaming history, that means that every single time you get matched up with somebody who's just paid to be able to advance through it, your limited fuel means that you're probably no longer able to actually progress fast enough to get both pieces of bonded equipment. And so Wargaming, there's so many flawed aspects to this event. Now, I know it's easy for me to be critical with hindsight, but come on, this should have been something that you were able to see was going to be an issue with a game mode that a lot of people have been looking forward to for a very long time. So here's the deal, ladies and gents. I truly hope that this is just a test for something that Wargaming can definitely improve on. But once you put like 9,000 bonds of rewards behind a gated system that frankly is almost impossible to be able to achieve unless you pay Wargaming money in the form of 9,000 gold and then completely screw up everybody else's opportunity to be able to get the bond equipment without paying as well. Yeah, there's no defending it, really. And so, ladies and gents, I'm warning you, if you're thinking that you can just easily manage to amble your way through this and you've got more than enough games left to be able to get the bond equipment of your wild fantasies to give you that extra 2.5% damage, just be careful, because I've done the statistics here, and I can tell you that Wargaming have literally done this to almost the game, whether it's going to be possible to be able to achieve. Now, the only thing that they can do to fix this is if they increase the amount of fuel that you can get later next week by changing the mission requirements. And I truly hope they do so, because otherwise I'm going to see a lot of people inside this community who feel tricked that they've even started to invest a lot of time inside Homefront, finding that they don't have enough fuel because a lot of people who have paid have frankly screwed them over to be able to get it. And so let this be a warning to you that, at least for me, this is not Homefront. This is homework. Wargaming, please, if you're going to turn this into something bigger and better in the future, use the feedback that I've given you here. And that is, take away the competition within your team. Turn it into a PvE game mode where you feel like you have to work with your allies, not try and not spot for them, but just farm the damage as much as you can. Get rid of the bond equipment as a reward for something which is just meant to be fun, and make it so. Make this a fun game mode that people want to try and achieve the highest score. Make the waves go on indefinitely, and make the waves random to actually make it a fun event to play through. And finally, if you're going to charge players to be able to skip through a time-gated content, at least make it so they're not screwing up the game for everyone else. Anyway, ladies and gents, that was my opinion of Homefront. I'll be interested to hear what you all think about it in the comments down below. Now, if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, but if you hated it, give it a thumbs down. And if you're watching this video as it's released on Sunday, it's time for another World of Tanks Tech Tree Showcase on twitch.tv/QuickyBaby. And this week, 501 of you have voted, and the majority of you want to see the Tier 10 Polish tank, the 60 TP Lewandowskiego. And so come along right now as I showcase the entirety of the Polish tech tree so you can see if it's a line that's worth playing, or alternatively, if you already have the tanks, pick up a few tips and tricks along the way. And so I'm really looking forward to seeing as many of you as possible right now on twitch.tv/QuickyBaby. And as always, good luck in Homefront, and I guess I should have really thought more about when Wargaming slogan a game mode with give them nothing, right?